Hi, this is Donna with the Waldorf Connection, and welcome to video 4. So if you've been following along with the Magic of Waldorf series, I've been walking you through the magic of Waldorf and how it nourishes children's soul, body, mind, and in a very holistic way. And we've been going through the word magic, M-A-G-I-C. And I talked about music and movement. I talked about the arts. I talked about the gift of childhood. And on this video, I'm going to talk about imagination through stories and curriculum. So when I first found Waldorf, I realized that a really huge part of the curriculum and of doing Waldorf in general was stories. And I thought, I don't know anything about telling stories. I'm not a very good storyteller or whatever, but if you think about it, just take a moment and think that you really do tell a lot of stories throughout the day and in your life that you probably don't realize. If you just found a great recipe online and just tried it, you might share it with a friend, or you might tell someone, I saw a great movie and talk all about it, or even your own children talk about, well, when I was young, we did this, and that's really storytelling. So there's nothing fancy or formal about it. It can be very informal. It's just you have to start, and you have to start with somewhere and jump in with telling stories. One tip that I'll give you that I found with my own kids is that by having a theme or an ongoing character, it can be a little bit easier to come up with material for your stories. So for instance, we had a girl in our stories who was about the girl's age, and she had a dog, and she was traveling around from place to place and having different adventures. So it was the same girl, the same dog, the same story. It just kind of went from chapter to chapter, and she would move from place to place and have these different adventures. So I didn't have to recreate the whole thing. We just continued on, and that's a really good way to kind of get your feet wet and dive in. What I did find and discover later, after I had been homeschooling for several years with my children, was how these stories really meet your child where they are developmentally. They're not just random stories that we choose for first grade or second grade or fourth grade or whatever. They are stories that meet your child at the place they are in their developmental stage. So in first grade, your children are getting fairy tales and folk tales and nature stories. And it feeds their soul. It feeds where they are at that time. In second grade, they're getting the fable tales and legends and trickster tales, as they're a little bit more nearing the 9-year change and not having to listen to you maybe as much as they had in the past, and this sort of, well, if I don't do this, here's what could happen, and they're learning a little bit more. And this happens throughout the entire curriculum, and I have found that these stories are right on. If your child is the right age and at the right stage, these stories will feed them, will give them what they need, and they take them in such a living way. They really digest these stories and are learning so many things from those stories, whether it's about characters, about where they live, about their actions, and maybe consequences for their actions. So I love that Rudolf Steiner created this curriculum with these stories that really are meant to nourish and feed your child right where they are developmentally. And even in the younger ages, if you've got a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, it's about simple fairy tales, nature stories, and folk tales. And what child doesn't love a great story being told? But I just want to kind of bridge the gap there between those stories and how amazing the stories are when you get up into the grades. And that continues on all the way up, through the curriculum. So storytelling is a big part of it. And we have been going through all of these things that make Waldorf an amazing curriculum that nourishes your child and really brings this magic to them. I hope you've enjoyed this video on bringing the magic of Waldorf to your children at home. All right, I'll see you over there. Bye-bye.